Flying Casual is brought to you by Patreon supporters Wes Anderson, Jory Webb, Nate Edison, and David Bush. May the Force be with you. The calm disintegrates. Wait, I hear myself saying. To whom? I don't know. Some man who cannot hear me. It wasn't supposed to end this way. I can't leave Luke yet. We have so much yet to do. First, the Death Star, I thought when I saw him. Then the liberation of home, Coruscant, all the planets in the galaxy. Together, we'd be unstoppable. But a cold feeling of dread enters me now as I see the green lasers leap through space and collide with my engines. They shear through the hull of my ship and out the other side. A fire starts in my controls. Then another salvo eviscerates my ship. But beyond the terror, beyond the flaring light of my disintegrating hull, beyond the dark reaches of the Empire and the endless black of space where stars burn like little promises of hope, I feel the wind of Tatooine sweeping across the desert and hear the call of my mother for dinner, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Luke will not miss. The fear is gone, and then there is only peace.
You're listening to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast. Here's your host, Michael Canterbury.
Casual fam, week 23 of the Flying Casual Star Wars podcast. Ooh, that was some heavy stuff coming in there in the front, but I feel like it's a necessary reading. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Folks, I am joined by my lovely co-pilot here, Walho herself, Holly. How you doing?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
I don't know. That was some deep reading there at the beginning, so I don't know how I'm going to do the rest of this episode. I don't know.
How will you focus?
Biggs' final moments.
We're all depressed now.
You know what? I was worried about that, but we got a lot of energy. I think it'll all be fine. Sometimes you got to talk about the dark moments.
It's true.
You know?
They happen a lot in Star Wars.
Right?
Yeah.
Amen, they do.
I mean...
we kind of gloss over them sometimes, you know.
I mean, we don't
billions
have to.
of deaths. We don't have to, but sometimes they do. The New Republic being obliterated. Kind of glossed over that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it happens.
It happens. Luke, I also have with me our good friend and also trusted co-pilot. We have 3 co-pilots here on this vessel. Mr. Luke Elder. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
It fits.
I come to talk with you again.
That might just be on repeat the entire episode. Just faintly in the background. It seems fitting, right?
Yeah, it does.
Right? Oh, I'm kind of looking at myself in the sweatshirt here on the video. And look, got a little pouch going.
Oh, it's a front pocket.
It is a front pocket.
I saw that Ashley Eckstein just released a new Star Wars sweatshirt specifically with a cool front pocket that you're supposed to put your pizza in.
What? Wow. That's
What? Pizza?
Yeah.
breaking news here.
That's
I
what
have
she
not heard
used
that.
it for.
Okay. Well, hey, I guess I'm going to put my order in for it now because I'm one who carries around pizza with me from time to time. So, interesting stuff there. Get your pizza sweatshirt at heruniverse.com if you haven't already. Guys, so we're coming in at week 23. I mean, with a very deep and sensitive subject, okay? And I'm conflicted whether to. I would like to share, like, my favorite parts of some of the Star Wars books that I've read. There's so many awesome moments, and this one just kind of stuck out to me recently. And I was like, I want to read this for our listeners if they haven't read it already, and I just want to share it with my friends and talk about it a little bit, even if it is a little dark, even if it is Biggs's final moment. I think everyone needs to read this book, especially this chapter. So Holly, I want to come to you, with some comments first.
Okay.
So I read to you the little piece from Desert Sun, a chapter in the Star Wars from a certain point of view, 40 years celebrating Star Wars book that came out, and in that book, various authors. I mean, we have pretty much all of your new canon authors, some old school authors, picking stories from characters in Star Wars that typically you may not see their perspective, and they fit their perspective into the bigger story that we know. And in this one, Desert Sun, it's from the perspective of Biggs, Luke Skywalker's friend from Tatooine. And, I mean, it's not a spoiler, really, for any of you Star Wars fans. Biggs doesn't make it, when they fight, the Empire to blow up the Death Star. But what this little chapter does, let me just get the author here. Let's find it. This chapter is called Desert Sun from Pierce Brown. It's one of the best chapters in this book. There's other great ones, and we'll talk about them in the future, but this one is fantastic. But you heard me read the end there, Biggs' final moment. I mean, have you ever felt anything so deep in Star Wars?
No, it was pretty intense.
That was intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a genius idea to take characters that we maybe don't hear so much about and show things from a certain point of view, which actually I think that should probably be Kenobi's show title, but we used it on this book. But anything else that sticks out to you about that? Do you want to pick this up after hearing that?
I'll read it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. Luke, you heard the little reading there too. Are you intrigued? Is this something you want to pick up now? What did you think about that? Uh-oh, I think he's muted. He's muted.
Hey,
he's
am I
muted.
Here? Am I here?
What'd you think?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful passage about Biggs really coming to peace with his sacrifice in the moment.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I can imagine it in like cosmic terms playing out over a much longer time period than the time period we see Biggs like blow up. Like his soul is going through this journey for like a while longer after his actual death. But it's so maybe he almost is like experiencing some of the other events of Luke's life in some way as he progresses beyond his death. I like to think of it that way. Like a bit of Biggs is still there with Luke. So I also Googled Pierce Brown since you brought him up. He's a handsome guy, so
Absolutely.
He's got a couple things going for him. Good writer.
Great writer. This whole chapter is fantastic. I mean, Biggs talks about hearing Luke's voice. He's like, I know that voice. I cannot believe, our savior here is going to be this friend of mine from Tatooine, a farm boy, a desert son, he calls him. And that's the title of the chapter. And it's as much about Luke, and as much as I love him talking about Luke, and is this really the kid that, on Beggar's Canyon and we used to bullseye Wampa? Is that the same kid who's here to save the galaxy? And this story is as much Luke's story as it is Biggs' story. And I don't know. That's why I love it so much, because it makes the moment bigger. Because, Biggs' death is very quick, right? I mean, that the whole attack on the Death Star is very quick. And this story just blows that scene up. And I mean, you hear some stuff from Porkins and stuff, and you hear... you hear Biggs' thoughts on Porkins, but just his moment of peace and sacrifice, and he hears his mother calling him for dinner. I mean, it's one of the saddest, but one of the most intriguing stories I've ever heard in Star Wars. And there's so many more of these guys, and we're going to share them. And if you haven't picked up this book, you really need to. There's so many different. There's a great chapter with Obi-Wan and Yoda. There's really great stuff in here. You got to pick it up. Some stories are better than others, but there's some really good stuff in here. I haven't even read all of them yet, but that Biggs Desert Sun one really sticks out to me. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Sorry, back to what
Come
you
on.
asked me, because you asked me what I thought about it.
You needed a moment to think about it, because you were in a very dark place there for a moment. I brought you down. You're a positive person. I brought you down. I'm sorry for that.
You did bring me down. That is true. You've probably brought everyone
down
now.
I'm
I
really
hope
sorry,
nobody
guys.
turned this off and said this is too dark for me.
Hello, darkness, friend.
But I think that it's important to remember that there are a lot of casualties on the rebellion
Absolutely.
side. And those do kind of get glossed over because you can't fit in everybody's background or how, everybody contributes.
Yeah.
It's only certain characters that you really see a lot of, which end up being our main characters. But
Absolutely.
if you think about it, there's so much more to the rebellion than just these unnamed pilots that keep going down in battle. And so I think that it's kind of cool to have that perspective because it brings it back to they're all human or
there's so many people making a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Not just Luke, not just our heroes here.
It's just like normal everyday people or, beings in the galaxy who feel like they have this common thing that they're fighting for.
Yeah.
So.
It reminds me of one of our heroes, Finn, really coming to peace with his sacrifice, right? In The Last Jedi and his little speeder, and just, this was my purpose. This is what I'm here to do. This is why I rebelled. This is, I found peace with it. And it would be interesting to hear, something from his perspective there in that moment. But it's fantastic. And there's a lot going out there. And I think these little stories are fantastic. And so if you haven't already, guys, pick that up. I know that was a little depressing and a little sad, but it's one of my favorite passages from a Star Wars book, the more recent ones. But we're going to do more of that, open up discussion. I think it's really fun. And I want you guys to share some of your favorite moments in Star Wars novels. Share those with us, point it out in the group, let us know where we can find it. And I think it's just great discussion topics will come of that. But outside of that, guys, a surprisingly busy week of Star Wars news. If it weren't, a Star Wars production, happening right now, and we're finding out, there's delays. I mean, it just wouldn't be Star Wars. We find out Obi-Wan and that production of that series on Disney Plus is now delayed, and won't start shooting for several months now, when it was supposed to start shooting here soon. Looks like some writing issues. Luke, I want to come to you. This isn't the first, this isn't the first time Star Wars has announced a delay or reshoots or whatever it is, but it looks like we've got some writing issues. Is there cause for concern here? Do you have hope that we're just trying to make this thing right?
Yeah, that's what you have to imagine is the reason that they do these sort of things, is to make sure that the final product comes out being something that we can all enjoy. And what I wonder every time I hear these stories, though, too, is like, I don't, follow any other property in the way that I follow Star Wars. So I don't know how common this is in the industry to go through and have to, change directors, change writers, bring in somebody to direct reshoots other than the person who directed principal photography, and all this stuff that we've seen in the Disney era of Star Wars that everyone points to and freaks out about and says, this is what's wrong with Star Wars. To me, if you don't know any of that behind the scenes stuff, all you can judge on is the movies themselves. And that's really what we should, or the shows or whatever, what we should judge on. So I don't want to pass judgment on anything that hasn't even started filming yet, so I just wonder, probably a lot of productions go through this sort of change and rewrite and rework, and it's just not like fretted over as much, every little thing, in lesser obsessed series.
And people following it. Yeah, right? Like, I'm sure this news happens all the time, and it just doesn't get the attention that Star Wars has. Because I got to be honest, I feel like there's people out there that just kind of want things to fail. To say, you know what, we knew this Disney purchase was going to go wrong. We knew there's a lot of haters out there, and it generates a lot of conversation. But you know what? I think we all here want it to succeed, and if they need to take time with it, let's make it right. And I think that's something that I admire that Kathleen Kennedy is doing, is that, we're before we even get to shooting the thing, we're not happy with the script. Let's stop it. Let's take our time with it. We don't need to rush this thing. There's plenty of Star Wars stuff out there holding people over, and let's just take our time with it. Now, Luke, you mentioned before we got started, that the story they were writing was a little too, were they concerned that it was too similar to what the Mandalorian was doing, and that he's a caretaker? Was that the concern? Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, there were some reports out there that there were some beats to it that felt a little too close to the child Mandalorian relationship in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So they might have just wanted to make sure it was more of a unique story, and that people weren't just going to accuse it of being somewhat repetitive of The Mandalorian once it finally came out. So, that's all well and good. I think to some degree you have these different writers and things in different groups within the company working on stories and ideas, and they might not always know what everyone else is doing. And so all of a sudden you get to a point and you're like, oh, well, this is kind of similar.
Yeah.
So we should make sure it's its own unique, distinct story that's worth it, its own telling.
I also think there's a lot of conflicting information out there right now, because if you Google, if you just do a quick Google search, Obi-Wan series, there's one news article that's posted that says there's no delay. There's another news article that's posted that says there is a delay, but it's all going to be good for the series.
Yeah.
There's another article that says, it's delayed, but the premiere date isn't going to change. And then there's another article right after that that's like, oh, it's delayed, and now the premiere date's going to be pushed back months and months. So it's really hard to tell what's true and what's not unless it's coming straight from Lucasfilm.
Well, and Ewan McGregor came out, right, and he was one that said, I don't believe the premiere date's, being pushed back, however the shooting is, but everyone just needs to calm the hell down.
Yeah.
Right? Chill out. People just love this drama. There's no issues. They just want to make some adjustments with the actual story. And that's fine.
And that leads me back to believe what Luke was saying, where I'm sure that this happens in that industry all of the time. I mean, how can it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, if Ewan McGregor isn't worried about it and he's been doing this for pretty much his entire life, I think we're fine.
Absolutely. Now, though, if they're saying that we're a little worried that it has a little too much of that Mandalorian feel where we got a caregiver here, would that even be something, Holly, that it would have crossed your mind if you have watched The Mandalorian and now you know what Obi-Wan's story is, right? He's watching over Luke Skywalker. Was that even a concern in your mind that, what if this is too much like The Mandalorian?
No,
right?
I don't think so, because I think that's such a common theme in movies and TV shows anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know, that wouldn't have been a concern unless there was something that was wow, it's just literally the exact same thing as The Mandalorian, just with different characters, which I would find hard to believe given the difference between the actual Mandalorian and the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, guys, I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble or not, but I feel like this Obi-Wan series is going to go a hell of a lot deeper than The Mandalorian. I feel like we are going to be in Obi-Wan's mind. We're going to see him going through some stuff, maybe some flashbacks, maybe some regret of losing Anakin, not doing enough. I feel like we're dealing with Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the most loved Jedi in all of Star Wars, one of the most loved characters in all of Star Wars. We're going to go deeper than The Mandalorian probably will ever go. But I mean, a lot of The Mandalorian was consumed with Baby Yoda or the child, the asset. We didn't learn a whole lot about The Mandalorian. We really don't know a ton about him. And that's why I feel like we're going to go deeper with Obi-Wan. And I would love to see him just grappling with this. I lost my apprentice, and now I'm watching over his child. What if he becomes just like his father? How am I going to prevent that from happening? I failed my former apprentice. And I would even love to see Darth Vader in this series. Luke, I talked about it with Nate and Jory, but is that something that you would want to see out of it? We got to have a villain, right? I mean, there's got to be a villain in Star Wars. Would Darth Vader as that villain in this Obi-Wan series, is that something you're wanting, or would you like a little lower key villain?
I think ultimately that would be a great tie-in. I could see some Inquisitor action.
Oh, yes.
As well. I think, it's really interesting what you bring it up about the emotional state of Obi-Wan that he'll be in at the time of this movie, because by the time of A New Hope, you're seeing Obi-Wan who's sort of come to terms with what's happened before and is ready. He seems ready to move forward with Luke and to try to make things right as best as he can. But depending on exactly where they put this in the timeline, I don't know that they've reported out exactly, and it makes sense that to me that they wouldn't have quite nailed it down precisely, given they're still tweaking the story some about how close or how far after Revenge of the Sith and how far before A New Hope is this going to take place. Because like you said, I'm kind of hoping slightly closer to Revenge of the Sith than A New Hope at this point, given what you said about just seeing him work through the trauma of not only his own apprentice, turning to the dark side, but that apprentice basically bringing down the entire order. That stood for tens of thousands of years. So like that is unbelievably heavy stuff. And so this could be the darkest Star Wars we've ever seen.
I want it to be that because of the fact that you are on Tatooine. It is a desert planet. Yeah, it's cool if we want to have some epic moments. Maybe Kenobi's fighting monsters. Cool. But, giant lizards, whatever. That's fine. If we want to tap into some of his, Legends storyline being on Tatooine. Well, actually, there's canon comic books out there. I'm pretty sure of his stay on Tatooine. Holly, in the Vader comic, which we read a while back, Vader himself grapples with the events of Revenge of the Sith. We show his mindset and that he maybe has some regrets. There's even a page turner where it shows him, battling the Emperor, and he destroys him, and he goes and seeks Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan's just sitting there on a hillside on Tatooine, and he says, "Master." And he's like reaching out for forgiveness. And then he ends up obviously not going that way, but he's struggling with it. Could you see that coming into this film? Could we actually have moments with the very solemn, private, meditative moments with Darth Vader in this series? Are we going to dig that deep into Vader? Are we going to save that maybe for a Vader series? Or will that take too much from Obi-Wan?
I think that would take too much from Obi-Wan. Okay. What I would look for in the Obi-Wan series, I don't want to see the relationship between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader until maybe towards the end of the series.
Let's go.
I just think that in the Obi-Wan series, that's when we would get to know Obi-Wan on an intimate level, because how couldn't we, because of how invested we got to him in the movies. I kind of feel like it would be a shame if they did this series and it was just more like surface level, like Obi-Wan, look what he can do with his lightsaber stuff. I think that it's going to have to be more than that, but I think that if you threw Darth Vader into it right away or early on and had at least too much Darth Vader. There might be a little here and there. He might have some flashbacks of their moments, or his last moments with Anakin on Mustafar. Sure, but I just think it would take away too much, because I think that there's still a lot about Obi-Wan that we need to get to know.
Preach, come on.
Because I feel like Anakin and Darth Vader, those two are one character, however you view them. They've already had their time to really we've already been able to kind of get into their heads a little bit more than we have with some of the other characters. We have a lot of comics, we have a lot of TV shows. And the movies that show that character progression, but we don't really have it on the same level with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We are getting a final 6 chapters of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He'll probably never be in any Star Wars story ever again, unless we go back in time, or who knows? I don't know what we're going to do, but it feels like this is it. 6 hours of Obi-Wan. We got to dig deep, right? One of the best characters in all of Star Wars, really bringing Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness kind of as one. I think you're going to see him becoming that Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, right? It's just, it could be so deep, and I feel exactly how you feel, that it could take so much away from Obi-Wan, but then I'm like, like you said, they are kind of one. They have been together for so long, and we have, like I said, we've seen Vader's regrets and some of his conflict in the comic books, but maybe that'll be a Darth Vader series. I was so against the Darth Vader series at one point, but now, reading the comics and what we could tap into on screen, because that's something you could do, right, with Vader. You may not need, you don't need Hayden. Well, you could. You could have Hayden Christensen, which would be really Luke, would you accept a Darth Vader series starring the man himself, Hayden Christensen?
Well, that gets tricky because we're saying like Hayden doing the voiceover, because at that point, like anyone could be in the suit, like
That's what
with the Mandalorian and Pedro Pascal. You know, he wasn't, for all reports, really in the suit a whole lot for a lot of the footage we saw throughout the season 1.
Yeah.
And it was just doing the the voiceover. So they'd have to. I don't know if it would be as powerful, because they would have to manipulate it so much to make it sound Vader-y.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really. I don't know how much Hayden would be left. So I don't know what impact that would have, if any, on me. If it's like, oh, it's Hayden's voice, like modulated in a way to, bring it down and add in the breathing effects and the distortion of the helmet and stuff.
Yeah. Well, because the stuff they did with Rebels sounded
work, right?
I think it would too. I mean, I thought Vader was very successful in Rebels, right? The voice stuff that they did, I thought that was really believable.
Well, the key piece there, you can only really hear it in the Anakin Hayden version. Or did they use Matt Lanter for that?
I don't know. That's a great. That's
the voice
a great
actor
question.
for Anakin in the Clone Wars. So I think you can only hear it when the face mask breaks.
Yeah, you're right.
It kind of takes away the Vader-y aspect of it, and it strips it down to the Anakin.
Yeah. God, I love that Holly's seen that moment now. It's like, spoilers are gone now. You're almost done with Rebels. This is great. So, yeah, I think we all agree that there is potential there. But, like, you start to... Luke brought this up in an episode long ago, and that when you have all these comics and you have these series and we're tapping into moments that have been somewhat, discussed or mentioned in the movies or shown in the movies, and we start fitting things in between those, it can get a little scary. You definitely don't want to pack too much into these moments, right?
Well, I think that it kind of sounds like you're concerned about then they're just kind of like going back and adding different details that kind of change what may have happened in the movie. If they're showing something like in a comic and then someone's like, wait a second, that's not how I remember it happening in the movie. And they're probably right. At that point, it just seems more like it's a revision.
It is, or it's they form it in such a way, just like the first issue of the Star Wars mainline, right? Like Luke confronting Vader, he gets his butt whooped. It's like that only fits in there and is okay by me before he actually confronts him in the Star Wars movies, because he gets his butt whooped, because it was just like, holy cow, we ran into each other, lightsaber, I get my butt whooped. Like, it was just purely incidental. It wasn't like he was not going to confront him. That's the only way it worked for me.
But I think that inevitably that's going to continue to happen, because I think that Disney built this new platform. They have Disney Plus, and I think that they have the opportunity to really capitalize on Star Wars more than they had before, because they're going to be able to create these original Disney shows, and I think that that's something that they're definitely going to take advantage of. Yeah. So I don't think that it would be like out of the realm of possibility to have some sort of Vader show, whether it's animated or live action. I don't know. Absolutely.
I'm excited. What are we slated for 2021 at some point, I think? Yeah. Which is fine by me. Hey, we're going to stick with the comics. We're going to stick with what we're getting now. I am happy to say, now I didn't, check to be certain, but it felt like I am now over 50% in Fallen Order. And that game is freaking sweet. Now, did I have to retrain myself on the controls for a good 10 minutes? Yes. I was like, I don't even remember how to swing my lightsaber. But I'm past 50%, and that game is epic. So I will be satisfied playing that. I'm going to download the expansion for Battlefront and get in there and freaking do the Rise of Skywalker update, and it's going to be epic with the new characters, and watch the second season of The Mandalorian. I'll be happy until 2021. And we have Celebration in August. Who knows what's coming? We're going to probably learn a lot. I feel like we're going to get spoiled. I don't think a lot of people think we are. They think the news might be pretty light, but I think we're going to get spoiled.
Well, okay, but here's the thing, is that before Celebration wasn't annually.
It wasn't.
So something.
Well, it was, and then they went on a 2-year hiatus, and but now it's back to every year.
But I just feel like if you're gonna have it every year, then the coming back into having it every year, there's probably something.
Oh yeah,
that they're going to announce.
And they've set a precedent, right? There's expectations now that people are going there to learn things that others may not know. if you don't go.
And them revealing that it was in Anaheim was like a huge deal. Like they built that up.
Huge deal for us. It's going to be super expensive, right?
It already is super expensive.
Tickets purchase, car purchase. This is going to be a pricey trip, so it better be worth it. But
yeah. Can't
wait. That's what, 7 months away now. Holy cow! It's coming fast. Phrasing. So really excited about the Obi-Wan series, guys, and I know you are as well. Now, if you've been following Star Wars news, and I'm really sad that my co-host here did not see this bit of news, but there was a leak, go figure, of Star Wars material. Supposedly, there was going to be a television series on ABC back around 2010. And they'd done some shooting. They had scripts, and there's some test footage was actually leaked. And so I hit up Holly and Luke. I said, guys, you see that test footage? We don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, gosh, I guess we can't talk about it until next week. But I do just want to say, though, you guys are going to watch this, and I want to hear your thoughts about it next week. So make a note for yourself to come check that out. But I did watch it. And as much as people are talking about it and saying how cool it was, I'll agree with you. The concept is cool. The fact that we're on Coruscant and, it's occupied and that's cool.
Can I read a description of what you're talking about in case Luke doesn't know?
That's fantastic, yes.
Leaked footage, seemingly from Star Wars Underworld, has emerged for the first time. The show, which was placed on an indefinite hiatus in 2010 due to budget concerns, would have taken place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, with a focus on street-level action in the grimy underworld of Coruscant.
Ooh, street-level action.
That's right.
I'm already in Is this an HBO special?
The article?
No, I'm just joking. It was a joke.
Oh.
It was going to be on ABC, but continue. Sorry.
No, that's all.
That's it. It is a short description. Yeah, some underworld. It's kind of that grimy, crime-ridden, series that people wanted, and you get a little bit of that in The Mandalorian, but, I mean, we know Coruscant is riddled with that and in all of its layers.
Well, so then tell us what you thought about it, and then we will tell you what we think next week.
I don't want to... Here's the thing. There's no Star Wars hate here, okay? No matter what you read, there's no Star Wars hate on this podcast. I just wasn't the biggest fan of what I saw.
What did you see?
It was the footage, and what you call it. It was just like a test footage, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I know that can change, and they're trying to see just how things are looking or whatever. But I was not a fan of how this thing was shot. There's obviously they're doing voiceover stuff over the footage, and I don't have any gripe with that kind of stuff. I understand it's rough. It's the first draft, so to speak, of what they're preparing and producing. But just the way it was shot, I mean, it felt so much like television. There were moments in there, it just felt like a really bad, really bad cop show on your basic cable network.
Like Campus PD?
Isn't that though like a live police action show?
So why can't they do a Star Wars
live,
live from the Empire?
I mean, actually,
arresting rebels.
I wouldn't be mad about that. NBC's doing all these live productions. I would love for Disney to do a live production like that. I think that'd be cool, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we write it.
Do we pitch it?
I'm down.
All
I have
right,
a lot
cool.
of pitches.
Phrasing.
Hello. It felt just the way it was shot. It felt so much like television. And then I just imagined this scene coming up and this really cheap zoom in shot. Here's my first thought when I saw this thing was that it felt like the show 24. Did anyone watch 24 with Jack Bauer, Luke?
I think I watched like half a season at one point, but I'm not a diehard.
I mean, I was a diehard. That was some post 9/11 stuff. It was really intense, but that was the point. It was like there was a countdown, and there's all this, really intense action stuff and really fast zoom ins on scenes, and that felt like this kind of to me. It felt like 24. And people probably give me hate for it, whatever. That's how I felt about it. I just wasn't a fan of it, and I can imagine something intense happening, and then we go to a Campbell's commercial or something, or a Pampers commercial, and I'm just like, okay. And it just makes me so pleased that I would love for something like this to happen, but being on Disney Plus, I feel like The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian felt kind of like a feature film, right? I mean,
yeah.
You didn't have those breaks. You didn't have the commercials. It felt more like a feature film to me, even how short it was, than it did a television series. And that's what streaming can do. But this, what I was watching, I was imagining it, being cut for a commercial, and then like the Pampers thing pops up, and some baby's bottom or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm out of it, and then now we're gonna get back into it. It felt cheap to me, and maybe that's just the test footage part of it. But I'm telling you, the way it was shot, I wasn't a huge fan. But I want these guys to check it out. You guys check it out. Let me know what you think. Like I said, the concept I think is cool. Just the execution, just like the prequels for me, some of the execution just didn't hit for me.
Yeah.
Though I do love episode 2. So
it's at the top of your list.
It may be at the top of my list now.
That's a good point, just in general, on the era of entertainment we live in. That the streaming era is basically like HBO everywhere, like premium cable style level of production, level of experience. It's on everything now, that you don't have to worry about what baby commercial comes on or whatever that you were worried about. It's just like the way that you get to experience the show and the way it's delivered, and even sort of the resources that get put into it. It's like everything is now HBO. And
absolutely, it's a great thing too.
Yeah, and I mean, even with like YouTube, like if you go onto YouTube and there's an ad, you watch the ad for 3 seconds and you have the option to skip
back into action. Yeah.
Like, I mean, why would I waste my time watching this ad? Like, we just expect it, we want it now, and we want to watch it.
That's right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I know I need to go buy Pampers. You don't have to tell me. Okay?
What are you doing with these Pampers, Mike?
I'm interested.
We're talking about maybe, Mike, in 10 years, Luke, I mean, you don't need an advertisement telling you to go get Pampers, right? You're like, I know I need them. If I want soup, I'll go get soup. You don't need to try to sell me. Or maybe they do. But so go check that out, guys. Star Wars Underworld. You can find that on YouTube. I'm sure if you just Google it, you'll pick it up. And these guys are going to check it out. We'll talk about it next week. And maybe I'm the black sheep again. Maybe I'm the black sheep of this podcast, and Mike just has terrible, Star Wars hating ideas. We'll see. But the main topic today, guys, we've been going nearly 40 minutes, and we haven't even got to the main topic, which was one of my, I was looking forward to the most.
Well, we're here now.
And we're here now. We've been reading the Star Wars mainline comic, right? And it's a monthly release, so we've got issue 2 coming out now. And so far, so good, guys, right?
Yeah.
Luke, you read it. Are you still on board? Are you still... I know we talked about in the first issue, it felt like it fit pretty well in there after Empire, right? Are you still feeling that vibe?
Yeah, it wasn't quite as like deep and as philosophical, I think, as that first issue.
Yep.
But it is filling in some interesting gaps. The whole time I was reading this one, we basically get confirmation that Boba Fett doesn't take off straight from Bespin with frozen Han Solo and go right to Jabba, because Lando is able to go to Jabba's palace and confirm that Han isn't there yet.
Yeah.
So where's
Han?
Boba Fett?
And
what is he doing with Han? It's like what I'm thinking the whole time.
And why wouldn't he go there
like, what is going on?
Collect that bounty first? Like,
maybe he's just storing him on Slave One.
But if you're like a bounty hunter, the first thing that you want to do is go collect on it, right?
You would think, but look what the Mandalorian was doing. He had a whole stash, and he was making it worth his time.
That's true.
I don't know.
I'm imagining like Boba Fett doing creepy things, like
dressing him up,
talking to the frozen Han Solo.
There's that dark serial
to get
killer
back
Star
at him
Wars
for all this stuff that might be in their history together.
You're No, he's got Han and Carbonite in a dungeon somewhere, It puts lotion on its skin, Han Solo.
No, okay.
And he doesn't respond because he's frozen in carbonite, right?
Right, which is part of the joke.
Exactly.
It just keeps getting worse.
But can you imagine, though, Boba Fett dressing up, and dancing around like the creep from Silent? I could. That would be hysterical. How has Robot Chicken or Family Guy not done that? But maybe Seth Green is listening, or whoever makes those series, and maybe they'll use it. Another pitch, right, Holly?
Seth Green's a big fan of this podcast.
I think he actually approves of it. Maybe we can have him do a little intro for us.
Yeah, we should call him up.
Yeah,
I'll add that to my list.
Yeah, hit up Seth Green. You know, I'm sure he has our information. So
right.
talk to our people, Seth.
Our people will talk to your people.
Yeah. So you're right, Luke. It didn't get as deep, but you're right. It's filling in gaps. Also, if I recall in Legends, and I don't think it's canon, and maybe it is, but in Legends, I thought Lando worked in Jabba's palace for a long time to be able to be there in that moment, right? To try to save Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, right? Hidden in his garb. Luke, I'm coming to you for the details. What is that?
Okay, sidebar on that.
Yeah.
That has always been the most confusing part of Return of the Jedi to me.
Yeah.
Is Lando with his little mask thing that he pulls down, and I'm like,
you could see
I
it's
still
Lando.
don't understand. Are we supposed to think it's not a human behind the mask?
Yeah.
Are the other people in Jabba's palace think it's some sort of alien species just because he has this little flimsy thing?
Yeah.
Is he trying to blend in with the Gamorrean guards? Because it's not even close. Like, that part of Return of the Jedi has never made any sense to me. Does it? Am I missing something? Does it make any more sense to anyone else?
It makes sense if you know, we're still in that Legends era, which, you know, folks, let me know if it's canon now. But like I said, he works in Jabba's palace for a long time to earn the trust to be there, to put himself in that moment. And so now I'm like, okay, if that's still the case, he confronts Jabba, right, to try to strike it. He knows who he is now. And like you said, Luke, that helmet ain't going to cover his crap up. You know, it's Lando under there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after this moment, because we spent a lot of time with Lando here. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of pans out. Holly, what did you think of the issue? Are you still interested in it? It's a monthly issue, so we had to briefly recall what happened in the last one. It's been a while, right?
I almost had to reread the last one because I feel like we're reading so many different comic series right now as they come out that I'm getting my timelines mixed up.
Well, in February, get ready to add another one. Darth Vader coming out with a new line.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on with the comics, but I thought that this one was a little bit slower. I think I had a little bit of a harder time like focusing on like, okay, so like, we get it.
Yeah.
But it really changed my mind at the end, though.
The end had a big reveal, but before that, it was a lot of Lando. You know, hey guys, you can trust me. A lot of that, and yeah.
Also, something else that happened was, even though it was Lando's ship, he had Chewie piloting it, and he was co-piloting it, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because can't trust him.
That was different.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
It was.
I feel like some of these like details that if you're not really like thinking about everything else that's going on or things that you've already seen, they would seem like very minor details, like like the Chewie and Lando switch for who's piloting, and like what Luke just mentioned. But I think it's all very intentional.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because by episode 6, Lando he's piloting the Falcon again, as Gold Leader, right? He's the new Gold Leader. So it is interesting. He's out there defending himself a lot to Leia. You guys can trust me. I can take the Falcon. Yeah, cool. Chewie will come along and keep me in line. Whatever. There's a lot of that. A lot of Leia with the rebels kind of coming up with a plan to bring the fleet back together, because they've all been kind of disbanded and they can't communicate because their communications have been jeopardized, and the Empire can tell if they communicate with each other, and some of the groups of the fleet have been destroyed. So there's a lot of that. But like you said, the end comes along, and we were reading it, right? And I was like, where's Luke? Where the hell is Luke Skywalker? Because it ended so epic with him, and kind of going a little dark, dare I say, and blowing up those, or at least, kind of messing with those TIE fighters with his mind. So I was like, where's Luke? What's happening? And I'm going to tell you right now, something that didn't work for me in this comic was Luke and Leia interacting. And she's just kind of staring down. And she's like, you got to do something about that hand. It's like the dude doesn't have a hand, and you're just like, you should do something about that. It's like, I get that it's like cauterized or whatever, but like he still lost a limb. Like he's like, that's not even like the biggest thing I'm worried about, right? It's like, dude,
and there's
what?
like that awkward moment where like in one of the panels it shows like she like grabs his other hand, and then the next panel she like lets it go and is like waving at him.
No, it was that moment kind of took me out of it a little bit. I was kind of hoping for a little more. But she even what she said to him at the end when she left him, it was weird. She was just like,
you'll still be who
you are or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you sensing more in that moment through the Force and you don't even realize it and what he went through? Because he said something's wrong, right? He alludes to something being wrong, and it's not his hand. It's what he went through when he was fighting those TIE fighters, right? The little bit of darkness.
He said he hasn't felt the same.
He hasn't felt the same, right? And she's like, don't worry, you'll always be who you are, which I felt like we could have done something a little different there, made it a little more special. But, hey, that's what we get.
Maybe they're just real people, and they have awkward moments like the rest of us where they don't know what to say to somebody else.
I would love an awkward moments of Star Wars. Just like fill in little gaps of time with really awkward moments. It's like, this is why this scene was cut out.
Well, that's one of them.
That's one of them.
We just had one.
It was, it wasn't my favorite, but a nice moment with an awkward, acknowledgement of the missing hand, and it doesn't seem like losing a limb is a very big deal in the galaxy.
Well, okay, so here's a question.
Okay,
How
is it
many-
about limbs and how to
No.
reattach? Okay.
In how many moments do we see Leia really being that, like, nurturing, comforting character?
I mean, with Luke, it happens a few times. It's the difference with her and Han, right? I mean, sometimes it's just to make Han feel terrible, but oftentimes it's she admires Luke, she admires his positivity and his desire to help people. I think she admires that. So there's some of it, but you're right, like.
It's not really. I just feel like it's not really her character to be. Like,
exactly, you're right.
Like for instance, in Rebels, since I'm rewatching Rebels right now, that's on my mind. You see Hera, being like very comforting, but also like very assertive, and
Absolutely.
she handles that really well. I feel like Leia is more of an assertive, which probably for her role she has to be, but she doesn't have as much as that. Of that like comforting personality as other characters that we see in Star Wars. So I think that could be part of it too.
And I mean, that's a little bit of Carrie Fisher coming out too, right? Like that's kind of her personality coming out in the character, and you can see it. But yeah.
I don't know.
The moment just kind of took Luke. I don't know if you thought it was a little awkward, but people were losing hands. No one seems to care.
Well, I think Leia has her nurturing side with Luke when you think about the post-Wampa scene when he's recovering.
Yep.
And then when the part of Empire where you see them get him back in the Falcon when they rescue him at the bottom of Cloud City.
Absolutely.
I think she's nurturing and comforting him then. And then in Bright Tree Village in Return of the Jedi when he's all down and says he has to leave.
That's true.
She just tries to console him and say it's not the way it has to be and things like that. So I think it works for me in that way that there's enough of that there. I don't think it's what comes to mind first with most people when we think of Leia as this like really strong, forceful presence in many ways. But that it's there as well, that secondary characteristic. It's interesting that you mentioned the whole communication piece of the storyline in this issue, where the rebellion needs to reassemble the fleet that's scattered after Hoth.
Yeah.
And the Empire broke their code, so they introduced this plot device that there's some ancient communication station or something that they need to get to. And you know what I wondered? We talked about in recent episodes the Trevorrow script leak.
Yeah.
And that had in it an element where they were going back to Coruscant.
Yes, sir.
To basically do the same thing. There was an ancient, communication device at the Jedi Temple that they were going to access to get a message out, because otherwise the First Order had shut down communication. So I wondered at all if that was intentionally borrowed from the notes or script that Trevorrow had for episode 9,
Yeah.
or it just happens to be kind of a coincidence that it's a similar plot device storyline that was being developed for this comic book series, or maybe it really was intentional to give that storyline some new life.
I think that's a great callback there. Yeah, and did you catch that they mentioned it was created in the Unknown Regions during the High Republic time? Another nod to the High Republic, and that the Unknown Regions were a little more uncharted at the time, a little more dangerous. So that'll be cool to see. I mean, maybe we'll see the Jedi scoping out the Unknown Regions, checking things out, building communications outposts. Who knows? But that's a great callback, Luke, and that would be interesting to know if they borrowed. They're like, you know what, we're not using that, but that's a great idea to put that here. This timeline of being some way that the Republic could communicate, or the Rebellion could communicate with each other. So great callback there, dude.
What are they calling it? Operation
Starlight.
Yeah. That's a great name.
It is.
I love it.
Like a little beacon.
Little beacon of hope, a little lighthouse out there, just guiding the way. I freaking love that. So that this is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes, if we'll actually make it there, and what's going to happen to the Damerons. I don't know. And the rest of the rebels, we'll see.
Oh yeah, we didn't see a lot of the Damerons in this.
Yeah.
Which I think that's one of the things that pulled me into the first. Comic book in this. Yeah. It was seeing Poe's parents, but we didn't really get very much of them in this. Yeah. In this one,
it's a cool connection. Yeah, and maybe I'm sure we will when they go out on this mission, and it'll be a cool storyline for sure. But one of them, we're back with Luke Skywalker. And he's, what is it that is, Lando comes back, right, and says he leaves Jabba's palace. We don't know what deal he struck with Jabba, right, and we didn't learn what that was, and we will, I'm sure. But he strikes a deal to leave. He comes back to Luke and he says, "Hey, like I gotta go back to Bespin, and you don't you have something there that you lost, your lightsaber? I totally know where it is. I can show you." And Luke seems to start then recalling that moment, right?
He has a flashback.
He has a flashback. Yeah. Sees his hand being cut off.
Traumatizing.
Yeah, sees that hand falling down, and an arm reaches out and grabs it, catches it. And we see a cloaked, which looks like a Jedi robe, cloaked figure with black gloves. And then the question is, who is that individual? Mm-hmm. Is it a living human being? Is it a Force ghost? Is it Qui-Gon himself?
You think it's Qui-Gon?
I don't know. Holly, who do you think it could be?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. I don't know what the hell we're doing here.
Luke?
I thought it was more like a Dark Ray situation. Like a vision.
Ooh, like it's a trap or something almost, too.
Yeah, because I wonder if he thinks that he's better off without that lightsaber, because think about when he got it, it had power and symbolism in that it was his father's lightsaber. And
Preach.
His father at that point was a heroic pilot from the Clone Wars, and he didn't know much else about him. And then now that lightsaber is connected to Vader, who he knows is his father.
Preach.
And so maybe there's a darkness he feels connected to the saber. So maybe he feels like if he was reunited with it, it would somehow pull him more towards the offer that Vader extends to join him and rule by his side.
That is
What does the figure say to him?
Luke.
Something about his destiny.
Follow. I have it up. Follow your destiny.
So I guess bouncing off what Luke said. I like that idea.
I do too. I love it.
But I guess if you keep going with that, it could even.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I was thinking it could have even been somebody else who was there. on the dark side.
Yeah.
Using that to try to call out to Luke to bring him closer to the dark side. That kind of feels like a trap.
It could be the Emperor. It could be his father. We don't really see, I mean, we see Darth Vader communicate with his son, right? He calls out to him, Luke.
Yeah.
But is he in this moment? I don't know. It looks like it's an actual person, but my question is then, is this person standing right there beside him and he catches it? Is it a Force ghost? Is this like 20 levels down the Death Star and this guy reaches out and grabs it?
Is it like a Rey Kylo situation?
Is it? Is it Dark Luke?
You know,
Luke?
I'll tell you guys, after reading that comic, I went onto the internet because I wanted to see what other people were saying.
What did you find?
I actually surprisingly didn't find a lot.
Nice.
I found 3 different theories.
Let's hear them.
Okay.
This is going to be fascinating.
Okay. Theory number 1.
I can already have a few guesses, but let's hear it.
Okay. Theory number 1, which I absolutely am saying there's no freaking way.
Aunt Beru.
That.
There's a 4th.
And I'm still saying there's absolutely no freaking way.
No way.
Okay, the first one that I read was Ahsoka, which no.
No.
It's not dainty enough to be Ahsoka. Like, she's a very...
Well, and also the hood. I mean, she's worn a hood at times in her legumes. What legumes? What the frick did... Luke, what are they called again? Not the legumes.
I don't know if they're Liku for Twi'lek or Leku, but I don't.
Oh yeah. What I don't know what they're
legumes.
called.
She's a
That
Torah
sounds
group,
terrible.
so I don't know if
That's
they have a
true.
different name for their head tails.
That's true. I was thinking of the
Head
Twi'leks,
tails.
but I don't know why legumes came into my mind. That
hungry.
sounds actually a little perverted. Now, sounds like I'm like objectifying Ahsoka. This is terrible.
Please don't.
She's too much.
There's some of that fan art out there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. That
which
is
actually-
another Google search, Ollie.
That is not another Google search. Thank you very much.
You better turn on your Bitdefender antivirus on that one.
Better put that
That's
parental control
right.
on there.
Seriously.
No, so I don't think that it's Ahsoka.
I don't either.
Luke, what
Next
do you think?
option. Oh, yeah, Luke, are you down? I can't imagine you are.
Yeah, the way the drawing's done, that doesn't make any sense.
It seems too
but,
masculine, right?
Yeah, it does. It does have a masculine kind of vibe to it, but you can't see a whole lot, so I don't know about that.
I just felt like the arms were too big, the fingers were too fat. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Option number
Phrasing.
2. I was moving on from
sure.
that.
Jesus. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I guess theory number 2.
Sorry, inside joke.
Oh yeah, no.
Go ahead.
Ezra Bridger.
It just seems too random. But like, Luke, is that one hitting a chord with you?
That one hits a spot. That's intriguing.
Yeah, I could see it, but I don't know. Let's hear the third one, and we can define the most reasonable.
Okay, so the third one that I saw was it was just one person who I could find said this. I read it. He does a comic book review. I don't remember his name, but I can definitely find
Plug it
that
later.
and put that information out there because
Yeah.
you guys should read the article that he wrote. He did a review of the comic.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I don't have his name, but I will get it to you guys. He said it could possibly be Cal Kestis, who we see in Fallen Order.
Ooh.
He's the Jedi that survived Order 66.
Yeah.
Before we go heavy on that, the
Yeah.
Ezra thing, I'm now thinking like that's totally bunk because that epilogue of Rebels takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So I don't think Ezra can be in the picture during Empire and before Return of the Jedi. So all right, go back to 3 because I think Ezra's totally out of the question.
Okay,
then.
so the
makes
timing's
sense.
not right for Ezra. We don't think it's Ahsoka. We don't think that it works for Ezra.
Cal seems too random.
I don't.
Granted, I haven't finished the Fallen Order, so maybe it could fit in. I have no idea. Phrasing.
Wow.
But I know it's already been spoiled for me that a certain character shows up at the end
Well,
of the game.
I don't want to hear that.
Good. Then we're not going to talk
We're
about
not
it.
going to talk about it. So,
What do you think about Qui-Gon Jinn? Is it just me, or did it look like that individual could have been a Force spirit?
Okay, so I guess my question for you is:
Yeah.
Is it just purely the fact that you believe that Qui-Gon is under the hood? Phrasing,
What?
but
That's something you
Okay.
don't hear every day. We gotta stop with the jokes. So I don't know. I don't know why it stuck out to me, but here's the thing. I think the most plausible thing, and the thing I like most, is what Luke said. And the black gloves even kind of solidify that for me, because it feels very Return of the Jedi. I can see that. But I also like the fact that, like Luke said, he may even see this as a trap, in that it could be someone calling out to him, or that the lightsaber itself is kind of representative of his father, and how he wanted to, confront darkness before, and look where it got him, handless. Where he's lost. He doesn't feel like the Force is on his side right now. He's questioning what the hell's happening to him. And now he gets this kind of vision in that moment. It feels like it's something that's trying to lead him down a path, and I think he will reject it. I think maybe he'll go to Bespin and be like, you know what? I don't need that. That is the past. I need to let it die.
I guess we do see often in Star Wars when we have our characters who feel or who seem to be a little more in tune with the Force, they interpret it incorrectly. We see that happen with Ezra a lot in Rebels, where he sees a vision and then he jumps to conclusions and is oh my God, this means this. It has to. There's no other option.
Yeah.
And so I guess it kind of seems like the dark side can be tricky.
Yeah.
And even just not even just the dark side, but I guess the Force in general can be kind of tricky like that.
Yeah.
And so I guess ultimately, it could be anything.
It could be, and I feel like we see a more mature Luke Skywalker in Episode 6, and I feel like he's still facing those trials, right? And I think this could be one of them. And then we saw, I think, in the cover of the next issue, they go to Bespin, like all of them, right? So Luke, I love that idea, my friend, that it may just be himself. And holding on to that past and what ties him to his father, and maybe he rejects it, or maybe he goes there for answers. I don't know if he even recognizes that's himself. We're going to find out quickly, I'm sure. Well, in a month.
Yeah, we have a whole month.
But
saying it's going to be quick.
Yeah. Any other ideas, Luke, besides maybe himself or a vision of himself? Anything else?
I can't think of any other theories right now. I just think it's nice that they are going down this path with this series, because we talked about it when we talked about issue 1, that they showed that panel after panel flashback to him losing his hand and the lightsaber falling away.
Yeah.
And I think we speculated are we going to get some of the background story as to how the saber ends up with Maz for The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
And that seems like maybe a road we could go down. I mean, it's going to maybe take a while to get there, and these runs can be pretty long. The first go around of the main line was 70 some issues, right? So might be a while before we really get that far, but it seems, I'm just happy that it's a road that this seems to be going down. It might be abandoned after a few issues. Who knows? Maybe after that next issue where they go to Bespin, something happens that then kind of the trail goes cold, but it seems like they're setting something bigger up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like that was one of the big critiques that we all had of The Rise of Skywalker, was we never had that question answered about how Maz got that lightsaber. And I feel like even when we were doing speculations, we were like, we have to know. We have to know how she got that, because it was such a big deal in The Last Jedi.
And now you look back and say that was a cool tease. And then now in this kind of format, we can learn how that plays out. And Luke saying, the last one was 60-some issues. Think of once a month, 60-some issues. We're going to be in this line for a while if we go that long.
Yeah.
So it may speed up at some point, or maybe they won't go that long. Maybe there's more story to tell between 4 and 5. But this is my favorite part of Star Wars, and I love that they're digging into it a little more. And it feels like maybe the next issue will be pretty Luke Skywalker heavy, and I'm a fan.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for, I guess, kind of back to our conversation that we were having about streaming, is that we're so used to being instantly gratified when it comes to like, I want the next episode. I want to watch what happens next. I don't want to wait for commercials.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You have to wait.
You got to wait with the comics.
You have to. So I don't know. I kind of think that it's a good thing that it's going to be spread out too.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like all at once, because part of the fun is the anticipation of just waiting for like the next one to come out, like what's going to happen next.
Absolutely.
It keeps you coming back. So
Absolutely. And there's other comics out there, guys, that are going to be coming soon that we're really excited about. I need to check and see if the latest Kylo Ren issue came out. I can't. We may have missed that, or maybe it's coming out this week. I can't recall.
I thought it was coming out on the 12th.
You might be right.
I don't know.
That sounds about right. But we'll check that out when it comes out. There's also a new Darth Vader line coming out, and if you haven't seen the released cover of issue 1, you are missing out.
Is that next week?
That is the
Wednesday.
Is it
The
the
5th?
5th? The 5th. Issue 1 comes out. The cover of this thing looks freaking sweet. Vader walking up all BA with his lightsaber lit, and he has death troopers on each side. It's like they're going on a raid or something. It's so freaking awesome. I'm in love with the artwork already, and that's one thing I loved most. I mean, the story of the Darth Vader lines have been great, but the art is fantastic, and this cover it's screaming my style. Like, I just cannot wait for this. So really excited for that, and seeing Death Troopers with Darth Vader. It's going to be epic. Looking forward to that. And they've released the cover, I think, of the second one too. I can't even recall what it is, but we'll talk about it later. So a lot of cool stuff coming up at the beginning of February. Our move is happening.
But before that, the book club.
You're right.
Goodness.
Before the move, Holly, your book club
next week.
Next
Saturday.
Hyperspace Happy Hour, boy, and we're gonna be in happy hour for a while.
We are gonna be happy
we
hour.
will, but we'll be in hyperspace for a while. It's gonna be a long happy hour, and I'm really excited about that. Holly has a couple of her friends coming in, big lovers of Star Wars, avid book readers.
Yep.
Really excited to hear their take. They're a couple of fun gals. Luke and I are going to be present as well. And our Patreon supporters have an opportunity to join if they would like. So a lot of different perspectives coming into this review of Phasma. And I'm really excited for Holly on this one, because Holly is hosting the hell out of this one. It's her first straight up hosting opportunity. Gonna have, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and you're gonna do a fantastic job.
Yeah, so everybody be nice to me.
Everyone be nice to Holly. She's gonna kill it. She's fantastic. And the book's been enjoyable, right? You got another 100 pages or something?
I do, yeah. So I know that a few of the participants have already finished it. One of them is doing a second re-listen of the audiobook.
Wow.
I know. And then I think some of the patrons have finished it, and I think one person just got it from the library this weekend.
That's awesome.
So hopefully a fast read on that one, but it is a fast read. So
yeah, absolutely. Luke, where you at on Phasma?
I've only got like 30 pages left. I'm really closing in on it.
Good deal. Good so far? I mean, you're almost at the end, but you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, it's been really enjoyable. So yeah, really looking forward to the discussion.
I feel like this book has flown under the radar for a lot of people, because, I mean, there's really deep sweaties in the group that never read the book, and they've said just what I said. Like, a lot of them were like, I didn't expect much from it, but this was a damn good read. So that's awesome. I'm so pumped that, like, Holly's idea is energizing the book reading, and that folks are checking out things they may not have checked out before. So that we'll be getting together on the 8th, right?
Yep.
And then Saturday the 8th, and that episode, I'm debating, guys. I gotta figure out if we're gonna do a live stream of it on the 8th, and that you all can check out what's happening live, or if we will release it as a Monday episode. We'll release it as a Monday episode anyway, but still working on whether we'll be able to do it live or not, so you can kind of see what's happening in the moment. But we'll have more information about that. So I don't know if Holly has anything to say about that, but maybe we'll talk off
yes,
camera.
it will be available live for the patrons.
Yes.
That's a Patreon benefit.
Well, they're going to participate for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll figure out what we're doing there, but it'll definitely be a full episode for you guys to snack on. Looking forward to that so much. And then that following week, the big Flying Casual move.
Flying Casual on the go.
Flying Casual on the go to the new home in a new studio. And I cannot wait to share that experience with all of you guys. I'm really excited. A little more space. Just a cool atmosphere. I cannot wait to share that with you guys. And Trivia Trials, too. We've got, I want to give a shout out to our patrons. They're just such good guys, and I know a lot of you guys enjoyed that special podcast we did with Nate and Jory. We also got Wes and David in there on Patreon, and I just want to give those guys a special shout-out. They're all fantastic guys. I have a message from David that I don't have pulled up right now, and I meant to read it. I was so freaking pumped, and now I wasn't prepared. But David,
I'll read it next time.
I was so touched by your message and your support. It was fantastic. So that's definitely going to be read on the next podcast. But I wanted to give those guys a shout out for their support and the great things that they've been doing for the podcast. But we are going to be scheduling Trivia Trials soon. Going to hit up Wes. Going to see if he's interested and maybe who he wants to take on in his first match and who's interested. I'm really excited. So we may be doing that before we even do an in-house episode. So stay tuned for that. Really exciting stuff. But I think, guys, that does it, right? A lot of Star Wars news to digest there and discussion topics. We're a little over an hour on this one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know we all did here. That's week 23, guys. It was a good one, Holly. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Luke, I love your theories. Say goodbye to the kitty there for us, and we'll see you all next week. Keep flying casual. Peace.